Pranithanikam from Plethora Upside LMS. And today I want to talk about something that we have not been talking about since, let's just say, more than a year's time. We've been talking about the pandemic, we've been talking about adjusting with the pandemic, we've also been talking about the new normal. What we have not spoken about for a very long time now is about the comfort, is about the emotional side of it. Today I really want to talk about it. We've taken care of all the things that we need to work from home by now, all of us. A good internet connection, a scheduled workspace at home, managing calendars, task management apps, meeting organizers. We also have digital whiteboards. But have we taken care of this sinking feeling which still comes along when we talk about remote working? The reason why I chose this background today, instead of a formal background, I decided to talk about comfort. I decided to talk about a more relaxing aspect of the remote working. Something I don't see many people discuss. Usually when I read the literature, when I read articles, when I read blogs about remote working, there are three things that usually pop up. One is the physical aspect of it, the physical transition of place and time, the transition from physical to virtual. Then companies talk about the operational shifts of the team sizes, the bandwidth, the skill levels, management aspect of it, and a bit of the affinity, the softer, the behavioral factors, like obviously building trust, building cooperation, being more flexible, being more agile. But what we usually don't talk about is the emotional side of remote working. How is it affecting you? Organizations mostly talk about how to tackle and how to strategize around the physical and the operational distances to adjust to remote working. This is not enough. And does it guarantee performance, motivation, and collaboration? It actually doesn't. Unless and until we don't address the emotional aspect of the new normal, we won't be able to tackle the problem, because we'll be only dealing with the surface level that we are seeing. And believe me, it is an iceberg. Reducing affinity distance is a crucial to getting a handle of the above factors. And for that, today I'll be discussing the cognitive science to give us a handle on working some of our high order mental processes in order to adjust with the remote working. A key ingredient and an element here will be remote communication. But then again, remote communication can be called as a depletion abyss. Why do I say that? The moment I talk about talking in front of a camera, the moment I talk about communicating over a virtual meeting, automatically there is a certain brain drain that happens. Because we are still trying to sink in to the idea of remote working, to the idea of going digital. We are social people, we are social individuals who still believe in the power of physical touch, human touch, physical affinity. The very reason why we have this mental block towards going digital. So if there is a mental block, there has to be a blockbuster to it. What is the answer? The answer is cognitive shift, like I mentioned earlier. What should be the characters in that case? What traits should one possess to bring about these cognitive shifts? Because as we all know, your thoughts create your behaviors in turn manage the patterns, and your patterns in turn manage your thoughts process. So a simple answer, in simple words, bringing about a cognitive shift in your thinking pattern in order to adjust to the new normal, to what's happening around you right now, happily accepting the consequences, good and bad, of the pandemic, or happily sinking in with the digital transformation or remote working, is creating about that difference in the way you respond to what's happening around you. The way you respond. Believe me, it's a game changer. You cannot control the situations which are happening around you, but you can certainly control the response that you give to those situations. Let me quickly give you a rundown on what are those characteristics. First of all, good mental shifting allows you. So how can we quickly bring about this shift? Here are a few tips. First and the foremost issue to address is diffused attention. A lot of us think that there is a lack of onus, there is a lack of attention as an employee, as a person in the current scenario. What happens is the brains start thinking, nine. Let's talk about diffused attention. The first and the foremost issue that all of us face while dealing with the digital transformation or the virtual aspect of remote working. Focusing on a call is hard, like I told you earlier. Why? Because the brain starts working overtime to complete any gaps, and it immediately starts filling the missing cues. And it can also get worse when the attention is disturbed, right? The brain starts prioritizing immediately, and more proximal demands over the remote ones, which are unfortunately irrational. How do I deal with it? First of all, let's accept and acknowledge that people are working from home. Those are their homes, and there will still be people around them. There will still be a certain limit of a mental block while they are working from home. As a general principle, it is better at this time to dial down communication rather than dial it up. What do I mean by that? Sending meeting invites over different channels of communication because we want to ensure the recipients see it. Something as simple as that. Acknowledge and work with limited attention capacity. Set default meeting times to 25 minutes rather than the regular hour. I think another problem that all of us might have dealt with. Are we not bored? Are we not actually getting wary to hop on a call now? Is it not emotionally burdening for a lot of people? For a lot of people, yes, it is the need of the hour. It is something that is required, but for a lot of people, it is emotionally daunting to hop on from one call to the other because they were never used to this culture. Why not set default meeting times and reduce the meeting times and speak about only what is important? And at the same time, also acknowledge the fact that we are speaking to human beings and not chatbots. Deal with it with a little emotional intelligence, with a little smart communication, with a little cognitively smart communication. Can we do that? As managers, they can ensure that there are participants in digital meeting who are actually only relevant stakeholders, and the interest levels are at the optimum when they are attending the meeting. Now you'll ask why and how will a manager manage this? Simple. You have to give them the clear agenda. Also, you have to give them the reason to be there on the meeting and the reason to be heard and felt important. It is as simple as that. This way, these are the few ways how we can tackle with the diffuse attention and bring your brain back on track to focus, to give and take attention. The next point is future interactions and belief updation. Like I discussed earlier, your thought creates your behaviors, and your behaviors in turn direct your thought process, which form patterns. What used to happen is a shared physical space, a workspace or a meeting room or a hall maybe, is an equalizer. It brings all of us on the same page because we are in the same room, as opposed to a video call where we are sitting in different places with different backgrounds. What happens here is unique physical environment can create a lot of difference. The quickest tip to deal with this is try to help people with filters and backgrounds. When we see all of the people with same, common, uniform backgrounds, it creates a sense of uniformity automatically. It also brings down the anxiety of facing the camera with the background that I'm sitting on. right? The background that is right now visible. A lot of us have this anxiety. A lot of us have painted walls in order to be presented in video calls. A lot of us may not be able to do it. So a simple way to do it is provide with filter backgrounds and insist on using them so that there is a sense of uniformity, there is a sense of some bonding, and there is a sense of belongingness to a certain group. Also, when I talk about backgrounds, I'm not talking about the white and green filters, I'm not talking about the company logos, I'm saying experiment and create fun backgrounds that will again ease out the burden of being in a meeting. Try doing that, it definitely works. Ensure stability. Ensure emotional stability by doing this. Like I said earlier, add a pinch of salt, add humor, add a bit of color, add happiness in your interactions. While it's okay to be flexible about where in the house one can work and take meetings from, and guidelines about the spaces could be established, a relatively neutral, non-stimuli rich environmental is always ideal. What do I mean by non-stimuli rich environment? I mean create that comfort level that your workers, your employees are more comfortable wherever they are. Another aspect of working remotely and dealing with the digital transformation that we all are going through is negative outcome expectation. And this is very natural, you're not the only one. And being always on. What do I mean by that? Have you found yourself constantly calculating the outcomes, the possibilities of certain events, and even possible negative outcomes of those events, which never actually happen? They just happen here in your head. What if I'm at lunch and someone calls? What if I don't put a break and I try to multitask? I try to juggle between my home and work responsibilities. What if I'm unable to do this task properly and I don't get support, etc., etc., etc. What if I'm not looking presentable on the camera? What if the people who are sitting on the other side are judging me right now as I present my presentation? I don't even know what they're thinking because I cannot see them. Expecting negative outcomes that could lead to coping mechanisms like always on. This is what I mean. Leading to distortions of already blurred lines between the home and work. Right? Now, how can we deal with it? Bracketing work and not work. Companies, managers, leaders could establish brackets for when work starts and ends. Let me quickly link it back to the example of video calls. Imagine you're on a video call, you're presenting, or you're listening to someone else present, and one of the members suddenly goes off the hook, suddenly goes off camera, or suddenly goes on mute, or is just not participating on that particular day. There are at least 3 thoughts that immediately run in your mind. One is the person paying attention, the topmost? Is the person interested? Second will be, is the person judging what's happening? And third is the person even there? Because I cannot see him anymore. Right? Cognitive shifting of your thought process will help you become less judgmental and think about a thread of more rational thought process. That is why one should develop this. I don't want to call it a trait, I want to call it a quality. One should develop this quality to just change the way you respond by changing the way you think. Now, it's easier said than done, as we all know. From home directly means more number of meetings, will also directly mean long working hours. So it's very important to block off time for actual work, a no meeting slot on your calendar. Otherwise, you might end up only attending meetings, only attending demos, those sales calls, those client calls, and concentrating less on your core work. Make sure you have a balanced task management, to-do list, and break for yourself. In a nutshell, working remotely really puts our limited resources to test, our emotional ability to cope with stress to test. So, coping cognitively and emotionally is the key to ensuring positive outcomes with intended working from home scenario that most of us across the globe right now are likely going through. Something as simple as shaking hand on a video call, something as simple as saying hello, something as simple as listening carefully, something as simple as talking about the personal issues that you might be dealing with creates a world of difference. So on a closing note for this video today, handshake on your video calls, say hi to everybody, know them personally, try to get to know your team members personally. Remember, whenever you're asking for a meeting and you get a no, there might be 15 reasons that you might even know. Make sure that you're aware about the physical and emotional balance of work and the mental well-being of your workers, of your co-workers as well. And last but not the least, try to bring about the acceptance of the situation that we all are in and try to see the positive side of it. Also, on a closing note, there is another thought that I want to leave you with. If you all thought that remote working is difficult, if you all thought that business, sales, customer success, digitally, virtually was difficult, here's a thought for you. Have you heard about something called Instagram? Have you heard about something called Facebook? How many years has it been that people have been running successful businesses as vloggers? How many years has it been that people have been running successful business models which were designed for Insta-specific business strategies? Think about it. I want you to think about it. This is not difficult. This is nothing new. It's just that this time it's forced upon us. But yes, we all are able and capable of dealing with this change. Not only dealing with this change, but we all can triumph over this change. Talking to strangers on a camera, talking to people we don't know much on Facebook is much more easier. It always was. It's just that now we have to bring about those same skill sets while we are working. On that note, I would like to sign off for today's video and say bye, take care and stay safe.